Welcome, everyone. This is Coffee with a Journalist. Live from Ireland, we have Dave Gilbert, who is a reporter at Wired covering online extremism and disinformation. What a beat. What a time. David, we appreciate you being here. But let me first also just mention what we're doing here on our little podcast called Coffee with a Journalist. I'm Beck Bamberger. We're here to demystify how relationships and the working systems work between publicists and reporters, journalists, freelancers, editors, the people that make the media world go round, frankly, which also involves, of course, publicists. So, David, thank you for being here, and hello from Ireland. Oh my gosh.
Thanks for having me, Beck.
Yeah.
It's great to be here. Yeah, live
Yes.
from Cork in Ireland.
Hey. And you said it's windy and cold and all that. It's classically winter in Ireland.
It's gone down to like -6 degrees last night, and so that means the entire country shut down. -6 degrees Celsius, not
Yes,
6 degrees
yes,
Fahrenheit. So
yes,
just in
yes. But
case people are
still,
worried that yeah.
but still.
It's still cold and everything shuts down when it gets any little bit cold because we just cannot handle extreme temperatures or extreme
I
weather
was gonna
here. So
say, I don't think of Ireland as like, ooh, cold. I think of it as,
no, it's
windy and rainy and all that, but in
more
green.
so, yeah. But everywhere is being affected by the climate change these days.
As we were
So
just talking about. Yep.
yeah,
Oh
we're
gosh.
getting
Yeah.
our bit of it here as well. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
annoying more than anything else.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
well, I'm glad you're inside and you're cozy in your professional studio, as you said, with your under your bunk, your kid's bunk bed.
Yeah.
So we're really killing it here in our studio
Just
situation.
just waiting
Yeah.
for my kid to walk in the door now and really mess up
Perfect.
the recording. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we'll take it. We'll take it. Okay, so David, you've had quite the career, as we know. You used to be at Vice. You were at International Business Times. You are now at Wired. You've been there since 2023. This is quite the beat that you cover. Before we get into that, I like to ask everybody, what would you say is the coverage of Wired today?
Oh, today. Well, yeah,
Hmm.
it's interesting because you mention Word to people, or I mention Word to people, and they kind of have a vague idea that it's this tech
Exactly.
magazine,
Hmm.
which it was for so many years and still is. It's still a
Yeah.
magazine, and its main coverage area has been Silicon Valley and
Hmm.
smartphones and laptops and the
Nerd
technology
stuff.
behind those stuff. Yeah,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
for years it was like that, but I think I joined in 2023 as part of what was a new politics team because the
Hmm.
editor here, Katie Drummond, she previously worked with her at Vice, and she came over. One of her stipulations for joining was that she wanted to create a politics team because she felt that
Mm.
technology and politics had become so intertwined that it was
Yes.
crazy for a publication like Word not to have a politics team. So
Yeah.
now our coverage is obviously on my beat. It's the kind of political side, but even on the business and enterprise side, all of the coverage is around companies and individuals who are, people like Mark Zuckerberg, people like Elon Musk, who
Yeah.
are making such a massive impact on US society at large rather than just in Silicon Valley, and
Hmm.
how those impacts are playing out and impacting people's lives. So it's a pretty broad coverage, and I suppose when I joined initially, I was a bit skeptical because I was wondering how would my
Huh.
beat fit in with Wired's coverage,
Yeah.
because typically Wired didn't cover the kind of things that I was writing about.
Hmm.
But
But here you are.
it makes sense now,
Yeah, it does.
14 months later. So yeah, that's kind of what Wired is covering these days.
Hmm. And now let's get a little bit more into your beat. So you're alluding to, the politics and the people, the players who are making it go round, and it's getting intertwined ever more in politics. But on your LinkedIn, and as we just talked about, online extremism and disinformation.
Hmm.
So I can only imagine the pitches you get, David, because maybe you're not getting pitches of anybody who wants to say, like, hey, guess what? I have a client in extremism. No. But man, how would you describe your coverage beat? How do you feel about your coverage beat?
Um, it depends on what time of day it is and
Uh,
whether I've had a beer or not.
yeah.
Um,
Very Irish
Mostly,
answer.
yeah, mostly like it's an absolutely fascinating beast to cover. I feel privileged to be able to write about it. Um, I suppose I began back when I was working with the International Business Times in the UK in London, um, starting to cover disinformation. That was kind of 2013, 2014
Mm,
time. So over a decade ago. And it was very early days in terms of what was happening. I was also covering the hacktivist movement, Anonymous and stuff like that. So that was kind of where it all started. And then, as you say, I moved to Vice. And there I
mhm,
really began to focus on the impacts that disinformation was having on countries outside of the US, Myanmar, Ethiopia, Sri Lanka, and
mhm,
how Facebook in particular was being weaponized to have negative impacts in those countries. And that beat then kind of morphed. I still cover a lot of that stuff, but I also started investigating online conspiracies, particularly QAnon, for a number of years was one of my main focuses, and more broadly, kind of online conspiracies. And that then paved the way for kind of looking at even more extreme online communities, including online militias, how they were organizing online, um, and kind of more generally the far right, white power movement, stuff like that online. And that's where I am now, and how most recently, I suppose, it's how those communities have interacted or moved to become part of the mainstream political system in the US, and how we've seen really extreme ideas become mainstream thanks as a result of the Trump and the GOP more generally kind of shifting to the right.
mm, mm. So, if we may go into your inbox, then are you getting any viable pitches that are useful to you? I would
Yeah,
imagine it
like
would be from thought leaders, experts in certain domains.
no, I
No.
the idea of getting a pitch from a thought leader just leaves me cold.
Okay.
Because if someone has to describe themselves as a thought leader, I feel that
Mm,
they've kind of missed the boat if I don't know that they are a thought leader.
ooh,
Like,
good point.
I
Good point. Good
suppose
point. Oof.
there are people who I would rely on to send me pitches, and typically they kind of will avoid my inbox more so and get me on WhatsApp or Signal. Um, these would be researchers, and not researchers, but like, I suppose, the publicists for researchers and um, research groups who I've worked with for
Hmm,
years, and kind of
hmm.
understand what I would be interested in covering and the types of content that Wired would cover. Now, that doesn't mean to say that they still don't send stuff that makes absolutely no sense for coverage, because I guess they're doing their jobs. But yeah, the idea of someone sending a cold email with, I've thoughts from a thought leader on extremism, like, it just really doesn't work.
Hmm. So so is it safe to say you don't want pitches?
Oh no, I love getting pitches.
Okay. Okay.
But
Tell us more though. But let's talk about the viable ones.
so I suppose the viable ones are, they have to have new information.
Okay.
The idea of sending an email with just someone suddenly had a thought about extremism or disinformation and wanted to share it, fine, but
Right.
that's
Okay.
not a news
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
I like very much focused on news. I do some longer form features as well, but that's not something I would typically look for pitches on. I'm looking for news, and
Yeah.
specifically news that no one else is going to get. So obviously exclusives are better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Harder and harder to come by those though, because
Mm,
people want as much coverage as they can get.
yep.
But no pitches with access to information before publication, so embargoed
Mm-hmm.
reports, but also not just a report, but also access to the authors of the report,
Mm-hmm.
so that uh, if it is not going to be an exclusive, that I would be able to speak to the researcher, get some different quotes than the ones that are in the press release or the report that's going out, and also access, if possible, to the actual data that they gathered to compile their report, whether that's TikTok videos spreading anti-Semitic hate or a list of Twitter accounts that are part of a far-right network, so that I can then verify that information for myself. So if that's all there and it's a new and interesting topic, then I'm more than happy to get those pitches via email, and work with the publicist to craft something that's different and unique to what everyone else would be writing.
Okay. So he's open for pitches. Do you then consider the subject line? Is that important? Or are you opening every single pitch you get? So this is where we want to get into, like, how do you manage your flow of emails?
Well, I have no unread emails in my inbox.
Oh, you're one of those. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm on that too. I am that. I have to get to
incredibly
zero.
proud of.
Zero. Very good.
But I'm not very good at managing. Like I snooze emails a lot. So,
Okay.
until 8 o'clock
Kind of a
next
hack.
morning.
Yeah.
So they'll be top
Yeah.
of my email list, and that's fine. But then I find myself just dismissing them at 8 o'clock next morning because either I have forgotten what interested me about those emails at the time, or I just don't have time to look through them. But no, I do look at, I at least look at every subject line before deleting it. I don't like press click all and delete.
You're not one of those. Okay.
No. That terrifies me because
Yes, I know.
What
Me
if you
too.
miss something?
I know. Yes, exactly. Same.
Because
Okay.
someone said to me they came back from holidays earlier this week and they had 6,000 emails to get through. No, they had been off for like a month, and they said they were considering just clicking select all and deleting.
No.
And just going, I know.
No.
I was kind of living vicariously through them though, and I said, do it just for the thrill of being part of doing it, not actually doing it myself.
So what, for many people who aspire to get the zero unread, many of your peers, by the way, who come on this show, what's your process? Are you just crazy? Like me?
Yeah, I think so. I think like I find it difficult to check my inbox and then not deal with it immediately.
Yes.
But I probably spend more time making sure I'm at zero than I should, and I should probably spend more time replying to emails in a timely manner. But
here we are.
What can you do?
What can you do? We're just trying to do the best.
Exactly.
We're just trying to do the best. Dave, is there a way in which you like to build relationships with publicists, if at all?
This is a really tricky one. I don't particularly like building relationships with publicists beyond it being very professional, transactional.
Yeah.
Case.
Totally
that kind of relationship, yes. But when publicists try to send me messages on a weekend, ask me how I'm doing, I'm like, what's going on? What's happening? I don't want. I have enough people in my life.
Wait.
And it does happen. And
wait, but seriously, like people just like, hey, how's your weekend going, Dave?
Yeah, over Christmas. How are your holidays going? I'm like, what?
You don't need to know that. Yeah.
That I know it's rare, but it does happen, and it's a strange one because the best relationships I have with PR people is people who know exactly the type of information that I want or that would interest me, and even if they don't, they'll ask a question very succinct, they'll get an answer and they'll leave me alone. They won't try and sell me on it over and over again. which is what some people do as well. And yeah, so I find it difficult to become overly familiar with publicists or PR people unless I know them. Like I know a few from working previously. They were journalists and they worked in the past, so that's fine, obviously, because we had been friends already. So, and that's, it's great because I can just ask them straight out if anyone else is working on this story or whatever, and it's really helpful. But trying to build a relationship purely based off this idea that they're trying to get me to cover something that I may not want to cover is just a bit strange.
Mm-hmm. I see what publicists are doing. I feel for it because it's like, oh, well, it sounds good. It seems polite. How is it going, Dave? How was it? Did you get something for Christmas? It's like that thing, but I cannot emphasize this enough of the now 200 plus shows we've done here. It's just, we don't know each other. Okay. We don't need to waste 3 sentences about your cat or whatever the heck or whatever, unless that is sincere. And I have been over to Ireland or whatever, and we shared a beer or whatever. Okay. Then that's different. But no, it's just not. So the falseness of it is like, oh, it's a cringe for so many journalists.
It is, and it's also it's very different from having worked in the UK for 5 years.
Interesting. How so?
The difference is, like, I found the UK was much more, I suppose it was more straightforward. That there was less of the, how are you doing? How are your kids?
Yeah.
That stuff than there is in dealing with publicists from the US.
Yeah.
And then publicists who are based in Ireland, and there's not many because obviously I'm focused on the US more so than Ireland, but I do cover some things here in Ireland, and the publicists in Ireland are incredibly straight to the point, and there is no how are you doing?
It's an American thing. It's totally an American thing.
It's like, it's not a totally American thing, because there are some publicists in the UK and Ireland who would do this, but it's definitely more prevalent, I find, among US publicists.
Yeah, it's an American
Sorry,
thing.
I don't mean to be mean.
Thing. No, I think it's just truly American. How's it going? What's happening? How you doing? It just is. It just is. Okay, Dave, real quick though, because this is unusual. You're in Ireland, but you're covering America so much. Yeah. How do you feel that helps versus hinders perhaps your coverage chops?
That's a good question. It hinders it because I'm not in America, and it's much harder for me to get there to cover on the ground something that's happening. That's lessened by the fact that most of the topics I cover are online,
global topics. Yeah, that's true.
No, I was in the US for 2 weeks for the election and traveled around, and that was really interesting.
I bet.
And I do travel there for certain events and to actually meet the people I'm covering. But I can do pretty much 80-90% of my job sitting here under my son's bunk bed on the south coast of Ireland.
Love it.
So it doesn't, it doesn't hinder it that much. It does help, but I think because a lot of people in America do like Irish people.
Yes, we do.
So
we have
my accent does seem to kind of drop people's barriers, drop a bit, I find.
Yeah.
And I know I've spoken to, I don't know if you know Donny O'Sullivan from CNN.
No.
So he covers a lot of similar topics. He's from Kerry, so he's from the next county over. But he lives in New York, and he's out on the road constantly. But he said the same thing to me. He said, like, that the minute they hear your Irish accent, they're much more open to, and he's from CNN. He's talking to like really ultra pro-Trump, pro-MAGA people who would typically hate CNN, but they still talk to him, and he thinks it's because of his Irishness.
The accent carries.
Yeah. So I do kind of typically put it on a bit more when.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good technique.
Yeah. It can help. I have to admit.
I love it. Use the skills, use the gifts you have.
Use what I got. Yeah.
Use what you got. Okay. Dave, we touched on it a little bit, with thought leaders and stuff. Are there any sources though that you're like, yes, I really am looking for those?
Do you
Ever?
mean
Just insiders? Maybe it's academics. It doesn't need to be a thought leader, as we talked about. But where you're like, "Ooh, I always
no?
love
I
to hear
suppose
from X." No.
no. Like I for a long time I was chasing after sources who worked inside Facebook and X and
Yeah.
Google and places like that.
Yeah.
Not so much more recently.
Huh.
The people I want to talk to are people who are part of extremist militias, people who are
They're not.
inside far right Telegram groups, people who are, planning the next January 6th attack. And it's really difficult to get access to those spaces.
Yeah.
So the next best thing is knowing the researchers who do have access to those spaces
Yes.
undercover, and they're
Yes.
monitoring them, and therefore it's building a relationship with those people who are, I suppose that's where I put more relationship building than into the kind of direct journalist publicist effort, is because I can talk to the researchers very specifically about very specific topics that are of interest, that I know of are interest to them, and they know of our interest to me. So I'll ask them questions. They might send me a tip saying, "Have you seen this?" So that relationship works really well because we've a shared area of interest that we're both happy to talk about. We're not talking about our cats or our holiday plans and stuff, but so that I find works really well. And I suppose the one other source then that I'd be, I'm trying to develop or cultivate all the time is people who are close to, I suppose, people who they're not part of any research organization. They're not necessarily an academic, but they are incredibly skilled at finding information online.
Oh.
You send them the name of someone and they're going to send you back 6 pages of information about them.
It's probably not a chat GPT thing.
It's not, no.
Yeah.
But like these people are typically, they have another job, and but they also spend all of their spare time monitoring and tracking the groups that I report on, but they track them at a much more granular level than I ever could, because they can just they decide to spend hours and hours of their day doing this for whatever reason, because they're not getting paid in most cases. It's absolutely
like a hobby. It's one of those. It's the people who are updating Wikipedia pages.
Exactly, but even more out there because no one is paying attention to them. No one is like, except for journalists who need information.
Yeah.
And that's the relationship I'm trying to build as well, because I know how valuable they are. When I need to write a story about a certain topic, I need someone I can call immediately. And so I need to kind of,
you need those people,
cultivate those relationships way more than I do a publicist relationship, because I feel a publicist, even if I have ignored a publicist for 11 months out of the year, when I do finally need to contact them, they'll still answer me because that's their job.
That's right. We're here to serve. Yes.
And it's horrible, but that's the way it is, I guess.
That's the way it is, Dave. That's what we're here for. Okay, David, I have a quick rapid fire question set, and then we can wrap it up. Are you ready?
Hang on.
Great.
Right.
Video or phone interview?
Sorry, I know this is meant to be rapid. Video.
Video. Okay, video. Bullet points or paragraphs in a pitch?
Bullet points.
Short or long pitches?
Short.
Short. How short, though?
4 sentences.
4 sentences. That's the magic number. Okay. I just was on my own webinar showing example pitches that worked, and 4 is the magic number. Okay. Images attached or a Dropbox zip file?
Or images attached.
Always. Email or a DM of some sort on LinkedIn or wherever you're getting a DM?
Probably a DM. Again, it depends on the pitch, but if I know the person, DM.
Okay. I don't hear that answer too much.
Yeah.
By the way, I need some coffee. I didn't get my coffee yet. Okay.
Ooh.
One follow-up or multiple?
Oh, none? Is that not an
None.
option?
Zero.
None.
Yes. Zero.
Yeah.
Direct?
No, look, one follow-up is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Direct or creative subject lines?
Direct.
Direct. The best. Press releases or media kits? For you, probably not.
Neither.
NA. Yeah. NA.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a time you usually read pitches? Now you're getting that, but you're in inbox to zero. So I imagine all the time.
But also, this is back to the Ireland situation. So if you send me a pitch late at night in the US, like we'll say 10 o'clock your time, I'm going to wake up and it's going to be top of my inbox in the morning.
That's right.
And that's probably a better time to get me than because by about 12, 1 o'clock, my editors are waking up and I'm doing something else. So early in the morning, my time is good.
Is very good for pitches. Yeah. And by the way, as we know, publicists, you can then you just schedule the email. Schedule the email.
Schedule it.
You don't have, it's so simple. Okay. David, thank you for being here today. This has been just lovely. I love that you use your Irish accent and that you're under the bunk bed of your child's living quarters. And that is great.
I only pay him like $300 a month.
See, but deal.
Yeah.
Love that. Everyone, this is David Gilbert, who is a reporter at Wired, covering quite a number of things in the politics of the U.S., including disinformation and extreme online extremism. So, David, thanks again for being here. I hope you have a plentiful, good year of coverage. I was going to say wild year. No, I don't. I wish you not a wild year of coverage. Please.
I don't think you need to wish for it. I think it's going to happen.
There you go. You already got it going. David, appreciate you so much. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me back. Really appreciate it.